Here's the roadmap for our journey today. We're going to start with the very fabric of reality itself, then figure out the whole purpose of being alive. We'll redefine death as a transition, not an end, and explore the so-called afterlife. Then, and this is a big one, we'll challenge the very nature of the soul, before finally seeing the ultimate goal of this incredible cosmic ride.
All right, first things first. To even begin to understand this system's take on death, we have to start with its view on life, on reality itself. And trust me, it begins with an idea that completely pulls the rug out from under our feet. Okay, the entire system hinges on this one core idea, which we find right on page 15. What we call matter, the chair you're sitting on, the phone in your hand, even your own body, isn't actually a solid thing. It's a manifestation. It's just the visible effect of constant, unseen forces and movements. Think of it less like a solid rock and more like a whirlpool in a river. It has a consistent shape, but it's made of constant motion. It's a pattern, not a static object.
So if the world isn't solid, then who are we in this swirling dynamic reality? Well, the book draws a really sharp line here. There's the spirit, which is our true, essential self, a being from a much higher reality that, honestly, we can't fully grasp. And then there's the being. That's the temporary vehicle, the body made of that manifested matter, which the spirit uses. As it says right on page 31, our being is basically a laboratory, allowing the spirit to run experiments and gather data here in the material cosmos.
Okay, so if we're all spirits driving these biological labs around, what's the point of the experiment? Well, according to this blueprint, the entire cosmos is basically a highly organized school. And life on Earth? That's our current curriculum. Now, in this cosmic school, progress happens in two different ways. First, there's what the book calls development. That's just matter getting more and more complex. A simple cell becoming a complex organism. It's like upgrading your computer's hardware. But the real goal, the main event, is evolution. And as it's defined on page 52, that's the actual advancement of the spirit. It's a spiritual growth that is literally fueled by the experiences, the data, that our being collects during its lifetime. And this is not a one-and-done deal. We're talking about a vast, cyclical journey. The book says a being starts its education by connecting with the simplest forms of matter, like a hydrogen atom. From there, it gradually moves up through minerals, plants, and simple animal forms. According to pages 61 and 75, each of these stages is a mandatory class, building up the capacity needed to one day pilot a vehicle as complex as a human being. So how does this learning actually work? What drives it? Well, the engine of it all is something called the duality principle, and it's a powerful idea. A spirit can only truly understand something by experiencing its polar opposite. The book lays this out on pages 81 and 145, explaining that you can't really grasp the essence of justice without seeing injustice. You can't truly know love without understanding what hate feels like. It's this friction, this intense contrast, that generates what's called essential knowledge, and that's the real fuel for the spirit's evolution. Okay, so we have our cosmic framework. We are spirits in a grand school, learning through the friction of opposites. With that foundation, we can finally tackle the central question. What we call death is simply the next logical step in this whole educational process. Let's just put it out there. In this meticulously designed cosmic school, what in the world is death? And the answer is actually really simple, but profound. It's a transition. It's not an end. It's not a failure. It is a planned, totally necessary pause between lessons. It's like the bell ringing at the end of the school day. Class is dismissed. Now it's time to head home, digest everything you've learned, and get ready for the next day's class.
So if it's just a pause, where do we go?
The book has a very specific name for this in-between state, spatium. And let me tell you, this is definitely not the heaven or hell you've seen in paintings. And this is where it gets really mind-bending. Page 345 describes spatium not as a physical destination, but as an internal state of being. It is a condition of absolute, total isolation where every single external input is just gone. In spatium, the only universe that exists is the one rattling around inside your own consciousness. To really hammer home just how intense this is, the book gives this incredibly powerful image on page 346. It says to imagine being locked in a room where not just your eyes and ears, but all of your sense organs have been removed. That profound, inescapable solitude, that is spatium. But this isolation isn't a punishment. As page 348 makes clear, it serves three vital functions. First, for someone who lived a very selfish, ego-driven life, this solitude is just the natural outcome of focusing only on me. Second, it forces an unfiltered deep dive into every single memory and experience from your life. And third, this is where the real accounting happens. It's where all those raw experiences get reviewed, processed, and distilled down into that essential knowledge that's going to fuel the spirit's next big step. All right, I hope you're ready because we're about to hit what might be the single most challenging idea in this entire book. And it has to do with the very nature of the spirit itself, the being that this whole cosmic school was built for. The book states it so bluntly on page 45, you can't miss it. Even the spirit, this incredible being from a higher reality that's on this epic evolutionary journey, is not the ultimate source. It isn't God. It isn't the prime mover. It isn't what the book calls the original principle. The spirit itself is part of the creation, not the creator. Now, to help us wrap our heads around that, the book gives us this fantastic analogy on page 291. Think of a movie projector. The projector itself, the machine, is the original principle, the ultimate source of everything. The light that it shines is divine will. And the image that gets projected onto the screen, that's the entire material cosmos. We, our spirits, our beings, all of it, are simply characters in the movie. We are part of the show, not the source of the light that creates it. Once you grasp that, all those traditional religious ideas start to look very different. According to page 221, words like heaven and hell are not literal physical places you're sent to. They're symbols for the internal state of a being. Heaven is a state of being in harmony with that cosmic projector and its light. Hell is a state of being in deep disharmony with it. It's all an internal condition, not an external destination. So, if life is a school and death is just a transition to a cosmic accounting session, what's graduation day look like? Where is this whole massive cycle of reincarnation and evolution actually headed? The ultimate goal, as it's described on pages 381 and 392, is something called the duty plan. See, after countless lifetimes of learning and refinement, the spirit finally graduates from the school of earthly experience. But the prize isn't eternal rest on a cloud somewhere. No way. The reward is the chance to enter higher, more advanced realms and become an active, joyful, loving participant in the cosmic order itself. You graduate from being a student to being part of the faculty. Phew. Look, if you've hung in with us on this wild ride from a single hydrogen atom all the way to the grand duty plan, you are clearly someone who loves digging into the big questions. And if you want to keep unraveling cosmic blueprints like this one, do yourself a favor and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. So let's leave you with this final thought. If this whole incredibly intricate cosmic system is really just an eternal lesson plan, and if every single experience we have, the good, the bad, the beautiful, the painful, is all just raw material for our spiritual evolution, what lesson are we choosing to create for ourselves right now, today?